Welcome to an introduction to vocal pedagogy, the podcast. Today we will cover basic topics of breathing, parts of the voice, and how to take care of the voice. First, we will start with the breath. Legend has it that the great Chinese philosopher Tao Te Ching was once asked the meaning of life during an examination. While his colleagues wrote feverishly, Tao Te Ching calmly transcribed two words: inhale, exhale. These are the yin and yang of the balanced breath. Posture. In order to get the best breath possible, the body must be in a prime position. In order to reach this position, everything must be in comfortable alignment. The head should float on the shoulders, while the shoulders should rest comfortably over the hips, and the hips are supported by feet which are firmly planted, roughly shoulder-width apart. Imagine if someone attached a string to the top of your head and lifted gently. So, what happens when we take a breath? The breath begins with the muscle attached to the lungs called the diaphragm. This diaphragm tightens, and the chest muscles called the intercostals expand. It's important to remember that the lungs are not actually muscles, but more like two sacs that are being stretched and relaxed with each breath. Now that we are standing in the correct posture, it's time to do some breathing. What happens? When you breathe down and out and around the middle of the body. You can see the hands are expanding with each breath. This is a sign that your diaphragm is expanding in the correct direction and you're getting the maximum amount of air. To accomplish this, think as if you were breathing through a straw, or as if you were pleasantly surprised. That deep breath will fill up your lungs with good air for singing. Another hint, if you can't seem to get this standing up, is to try lying down on the ground. If you can keep awake long enough to glance towards your stomach, you will notice that the steady rise of fall of your ideal breath. How do I know when it's right? If it hurts, stop. The shoulders should remain relaxed and not shrugged. Body posture should be straight but not tense. Feet should be about shoulder width apart. The breath should be effortless and relaxed. The intake of breath should feel as if the air is expanding into the body, down the lungs, and out and around the middle body. If it hurts, stop. In summary, good posture is vital to healthy singing. Breathe down, out, and around the middle of the body, and fill it like an inner tube. The diaphragm and chest muscles, or intercostals, control the breath. If it hurts, stop. Sure, that's great, but what about singing? When the ways of the breath force you have learned, move on to singing, we will. Anatomy of the voice. How do we make sound? What parts make up the larynx? What does the voice look like?
The human voice system is like a musical instrument. At its center is a vibrating element that produces sound with varying tone and loudness. The vibrating element in the human voice is the vocal cords. When air is exhaled from the lungs and through the larynx, it causes the vocal cords to vibrate. During normal breathing, the vocal cords are held apart and no sound is produced. But when the moving cartilages are drawn together by muscles, a vibrating gap is formed that generates sound. The cartilages tilt to control vocal cord tension, and like the strings of a musical instrument, the greater the tension, the higher the pitch. The lower the tension, the lower the pitch. Loudness depends on how fast the air moves past the cords. When we yell, we have to push the air rapidly through our vocal cords. Speech is formed by a combination of tongue, mouth, and lips all working together to control the flow of air and sound from the vocal cords.
Thank you, YouTube announcer guy. The voice box, more medically known as the larynx, is a complex mechanism that both creates sound and protects your lungs from swallowing your lunch. Ever heard of the phrase, went down the wrong tube? Boom, that's the epiglottis.
The human voice system is like a musical instrument. At its center is a vibrating element that produces sound with varying tone and loudness. The vibrating element in the human voice is the vocal cords. When air is...
What does the voice look like? The parts that are shaped like a V are the true vocal folds. They are made up of muscle and skin. For the vocal folds to work properly, they must be lubricated. When the folds are properly lubricated, they vibrate together to form sound. And now, coming live from the larynx, we give you laryngoscopy. Brace yourselves. Notice when she takes a breath that her vocal folds come apart. This is a vocal warm-up. Notice how the vocal folds come together at different points for different pitches. Isn't that just neat? Pop quiz! No, I'm just kidding. It's time for a review. We inhale using the diaphragm and intercostals. When we exhale the breath, the vocal folds close together and vibrate to create sound. The faster they vibrate, the higher the pitch. What an impressive instrument. Even more impressive than a Ferrari. Every one of us is born with the equipment to build our own vocal Ferrari. But just like the fastest cars in the world, our voices need to be taken care of and respected. Care and maintenance. In order to keep our voices in top shape, we must know how to take care of it. First point, warming up and sleep. Just like the great Michael Phelps stretches before a race, we must stretch before we sing. When first warming up, it is important to sing lightly and ease the voice into action. Try humming up and down the scale, or doing the same on a lip buzz to get the air going. Keep the air flowing all the way through. If you don't, your lips will stop buzzing. Sleep is also extremely important for the vocal cords. When the body and larynx are not well rested, it becomes easier to make mistakes while singing. Sleep also gives the body time to repair any damage done during the previous day. Hydration and food. Feed your voice. Feed it. Keeping your voice hydrated is just as good as the fertilizer for a green lawn. For best results, stay away from greasy, spicy, or dairy products before singing. All these foods can cause excess buildup of mucus, which weighs down the vocal folds. Since we're talking about mucus, let's talk about it some more. Mucus lines the vocal folds and weighs them down, making it difficult for them to vibrate. The body attempts to rid the folds and lungs of mucus by coughing or clearing of the throat. Warning: excessive throat clearing causes damage to the voice. Instead of clearing your throat, try warm, not hot, water. Do not sing while you're sick. If you have a performance coming up and are not able to avoid it, avoid vocal activity as much as possible prior to the performance and rest the voice. Carbonation and caffeine. Caffeinated drinks make it difficult for the body to reabsorb water, which leads to dehydration. Dehydrated vocal folds do not vibrate as easily, putting stress on the mechanism. Carbonated drinks also have caffeine and should be avoided. Even decaffeinated drinks are not completely caffeine-free. Tea, coffee, soda, and chocolate all contain caffeine and should be avoided before performance. Beware of the throat lozenges. These throat lozenges can coat the throat, much like the mucus that they're trying to rid, so it still brings about irritation. Many of these lozenges also have a numbing effect, which is really bad because you can hurt the voice if you can't feel when it hurts. So remember, if it hurts, stop. Singing and smoking. Besides destroying the lining of the lungs, swelling the vocal folds, excess mucus production, and raspy tone, smoking also fosters the formation of calluses on the vocal folds called vocal polyps. Smoking and the voice just don't mix. But don't take my word for it. Here is first-hand testimony from a chain smoker with vocal polyps. Note how red the voice is while the larynx is on the smoking side, and how clear the larynx is after surgery. Now, it's obvious to see that this person was not trained in vocal pedagogy before he took his surgery, but nonetheless, it illustrates an important point that smoking harms the vocal folds. Now for some review. Drink water. Avoid foods that stimulate mucus. Never, ever, ever smoke. If it hurts, stop. Beware of numbing agents that numb the throat. Thank you for tuning in to my Vocal Pedagogy podcast, and happy singing. May the breath force be with you.